Evening, everybody. That's right, the sun's setting. It's still setting early, but you know what? It feels great to see the sun out past 5 o'clock. We're inching closer to 6 o'clock, and actually, it's definitely up past 6. But soon, a lot more. I think March 10th is spring forward. March 10th is spring forward, so we're getting a whole other 60 minutes in a couple of days. 2 weeks, whatever the hell it is, 2.5 weeks. Anyway, we're getting there. It's the 21st day of February, which means that we're a month away from the first day of spring, and or a little bit less than a month away from the first day of spring. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because this year we got a couple of snowstorms, and I'm fine with it all. The other thing there too is that now that I have a Studio B set up where, you know, for special occasions or for emergencies, especially inclement weather, there's really no reason why I can't go live. You know, there might be just some days where I'm like, you know what? Taking a snow day, we don't have a guest, and I'm just going to really veg out with, you know, Aurora and soak the stay in. When that day comes, I don't know. It's not going to be this year because I think it's all done. I think the snow's all done now, and that's that. I'm already thinking about backyard, what I'm going to be doing with the backyard, whether it's going to be mulch or whether it's going to be hostas or something like that. I don't know. I have some things. I want to put my mind towards springtime fun. Fun in the sun. Anyway, that's just to keep myself coping. But tonight, we're going to have a good time. We had a guest tonight, Raw Egg Nationalist. Ren is going to be coming back with us on March 13th instead. He had a really busy schedule, and I told him, yo, listen, just do your thing, and we'll pre-record on March 13th, because, you know, he's like 6 or 7 hours ahead over there in the UK, so I just want to make it easy on him, and he had a busy media schedule, so no problem. No problem. We'll have him on soon, and I have something really big I want to talk to you about tonight. Of course, the title for tonight's show is The Great American Burnout. That's kitchen table economics to child care. I really want to talk about the ever-increasing weight on the middle class, and I think it would be a great way to open up the lines to people who I'm sure are experiencing a lot of things, have been able to experience a lot of things over the many, many different eras of American life, because I feel like we've experienced and lived through quite a few distinct eras just in the last 40 years alone. You know, I think we've had two major adjustments of the way that life was going to be after 9/11, and then the time leading up to 2001 as well. There's just so much. And I'm going to read a few things through because it's getting to me. It's getting to me, it really is. And I understand that there are places you can go in this country alone that will lessen the burden of you know, what's being foisted upon us and how really tiresome it all is. But there's the biggest, worst problem we have we can't run from at this point. That's just what it is. So tonight we're going to be talking about the burnout factor, and I want to take a lot of your calls. So write the number down. It's 914-200-0269, 914-200-0269. We're going to be taking those calls in a little bit. I'll set the table for you. I promise. All right. Okay, so the first things first. I heard that we already sold about 20 mugs. Cheers to all of you. Like I said, this is going to be the perfect addition to your collection and a very handy weapon if you ever needed to kill somebody with it. It's like Cain and Abel. You don't need a rock. You don't need anything. It's more versatile than a rock. You can kill your brother, and then you can go and you can drink a cup of coffee. So go ahead and do that. Check it out. Thank you so much. And I also can't wait to make some kind of a bumper or a wonderful commercial, coffee commercial out of that great video testimonial from our friend Lorraine, our 100-year-old friend Lorraine, who said some amazing things, that she does not want another 100 years to go by until she has another cup of this damn coffee. And I love it. That really warmed my heart, and a lot of you too, because, I got the feedback. So thank you to all my friends out there, and thank you to Blue Monster Prep. I'm just thanking them every night at this point because the world outside is frightful, Anyway, there you go. All right. Let's move on to the grab bag because I want to get to a few other things in. I have a couple other big announcements. I have 3 show threads that I published today that I want to bring your attention to because I want you guys in on them. We're going to be doubling down on shows that are really, really rooted in audience interaction and getting into the human experience again. So that's what we're going to be doing. I also want to let you know, those of you know, go out and become a part of the book club at the end of March. Book club nights are going to be on Monday nights, 9 p.m., and this one starts on March 21st. The book is The Robe by Lloyd C. Douglas. Go and get it. It's going to be great. It's perfect for Easter. It's a classic. You're going to learn a lot of new words, and we have a great co-host. So please be a part of that, and the way you be a part of that is become a sponsor. And for the time being, I'd say go to the subscribe star because we're trying to hit a big goal, and soon I'm going to be able to throw a lot of stickers your way. Can't wait till those come in. All right, Lucifer's Hammer. Not all of this week, but next week, because it's already Wednesday. All of the Super Chats on, quite frankly, superchat.com that came in starting this Monday are going to be put into a raffle giveaway for Lucifer's Hammer, my copy of Lucifer's Hammer. So I'm going to give that away next Friday. All right? Next Friday. Not this one coming up. Not 2 days from now. Next Friday. Just so people who didn't have a chance to get in on it, send a Super Chat. Quite frankly, superchat.com. You can send that even off air. All hours of the night and day, you can send that to just be a part of it. It only takes one to get you into the running. All right. I guess that's, is that everything up front? That is. All right. Let's get into the grab bag. The first one up is from studyfinds.com. I can't wait to do a lot of weird science and nutrition stuff tomorrow with Jay. Jay Gulinello is coming in studio. He's my first in-studio guest since this place has gotten a major facelift. Here we go. Studyfinds.org, lab-grown testicles have been now created in male fertility breakthrough. Lab-grown testicles. And let me just tell you, this is not going to go anywhere productive. No way in hell. Scientists have successfully grown testicles in a dish that could one day help solve male infertility. Oh, there's plenty. There's plenty that could be done to solve male infertility other than going back to the laboratory and trying to find some other unnatural concoction or method of doing so, which affects 1 in 12 men worldwide. Researchers at Bar-Lan University in Israel produced tiny organoids, artificial miniature organs that closely mimic the structure and function of natural testicles. These lab-grown organs, cultured from cells sampled from mouse testes, formed small tubules that parallel the sperm-producing seminiferous tubules found in real testicles. So they're not real. They're not real. They're fake testicles born from the cells of mice. Anyway, artificial testicles are a promising model for basic research on testicle development and function, which can be translated into therapeutic applications for disorders of sexual development and infertility, says lead researcher Dr. Nitzan Gonen of the BIU Goodman Facility or Faculty of Life Sciences and the Institute of Nanotechnology and Advanced Materials in a statement. Now, I'll tell you this. Last night we were talking about lactation drugs. We're talking about lactation drugs being given to men so that they can pollute babies with some sort of chemical excretion that progressive loons out there are willing to pretend is breast milk. And now we're talking about lab-grown testicles. That's being unveiled. Make no mistake, The lab-grown penises and vaginas, they are on the way. The lab-grown uteruses, they are on the way. The Frankenstein culture is nowhere near its final chapter. All right? It's nowhere near. Now, here's a moment in time that reflects the kind of thing that we have heard on, I don't know, almost like last night with the caller that we brought up from 1997 who called into Coast to Coast, who had the balls to call climate change the world government boondoggle that it really is. That is more apparent now than ever before. Neuralink is there to help the paralyzed. Okay, I'm sure it will in some cases, but how's it really going to be applied to the majority of people who go and partake in it? Lab-grown testicles, artificial wombs. These are the things that we've been reading about, all becoming mainstream, while this phenomenon of conflicting narratives over whether or not the world is overpopulated or whether or not it actually is in a population collapse in places like the West, those keep swirling about. So we have a lot of shit going on right now where populations are becoming infertile. They're just declining. Families are not forming. People are choosing to be childless, and there's just so much flux in the world at this point. And while all that is happening, there is a very public, mainstreamed push to have artificial reproductive processes introduced into public consciousness. And not only that, but also the idea that we can now grow organs in laboratories, put it on people who should have never had them, that we can take things out, put them in. We are talking Frankenstein culture. Okay, it didn't even get that weird in Brave New World. Yeah, they were genetically engineering society so that it can stay stable and controlled and all of that. But this Frankenstein nonsense, that's something totally uniquely us. So now, given all those pieces, how do you see this fitting together? You can go talk about that on your own in the chat rooms over there, and we'll do one more thing before we kick this one off. ChatGPT had a public meltdown, but OpenAI says it's fine now. OpenAI's popular ChatGPT artificial intelligence AI system suffered a bit of a public meltdown between February 20th and today. That it had been confusing and confounding users by spouting gibberish and other strangeness, including unprompted pseudo-Shakespeare. As of 8:14 Pacific Standard Time, February 21, the problem has apparently been solved. The latest update on OpenAI's status page indicates that ChatGPT is operating normally. This indicates that the problem was solved 18 hours after OpenAI first reported it. This is the sum of the stuff that was going on there. Oh, hold on. Of note, I mean, this is all coming out of, I don't know, it's all nonsense. Whoops, I really apologize if my last response came through as unclear, or now it goes into Spanish and Spanglish, and it's a mix of languages. The hell is that? I guess like Korean or something. You can see it's just bugging out. And people were laughing at this, and it is laugh-worthy, because I started thinking about, again, what was it, Tay, back in the day, where they let a chat bot, I don't know, primitive so-called AI loose on Twitter. And, of course, the whole thing with artificial intelligence is that it is learning from the input. No doubt about it that the people who are designing these things are making their input and making their worldviews and all that stuff be the most prominent thing that dictates how the program or the machine operates. We're seeing that right now with everybody realizing that Google AI images are very, very racist against white people and things like that. Should only be expected. And of course, that is more evidence to the fact that artificial intelligence is not intelligent. It is just following prompts from people who we really know what they're thinking. We know how they would answer, and now they're answering people's questions through the guise of some kind of an unbiased machine who is all-knowing and really good at doing research. But whenever the machine is actually let loose and allowed to experience humanity in its most raw form, we get Tay. We get things like that. We get the AI turning into a toxically red-pilled. Oh God, it goes all over the place. All over the place. Flirting with Hitler. All over the place. These are the machines. They think that they can duplicate what it is to be human. Whenever something like this spurgs out, I love it. Because they always talk about sentience of the machine and this and that. It can't even handle our shit posting on the internet. It's going to become sentient. Please. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that what these programs and what these portals are going to be able to do once prompted effectively is going to seem miraculous to many of us. We were watching some of that on Friday night. All of those completely artificially generated moving images. You know, the gold rush town in California from 1850s. It looks like an aerial establishing shot of an old Western film, but it was all just prompted for free. Anybody will be able to do that. We were talking about how revolutionary this stuff is, but as far as the idea of intelligence and sentience and being able to duplicate humankind, ridiculous. Which is why it is the easiest thing for me to theorize about merging the machine with humans would be to make us something less than human, to equalize the machine and us in a way where it brings us down. Okay, where we have an original thought that is immediately fact-checked by Google AI and just tries to temper down any kind of natural instinctive inclinations that we have, any kind of instinct we have, any kind of gut connection that we have to our gut. So that's where I think the sentience is. I think that the computers are going to try to steal sentience by dumbing us down, and it's getting there. It's getting there. It really is, because there's far more dumb people out there than we think, and a lot of that has to do with the machines and the media that they've been interacting with that is outside of their body. You put that inside, and dear Lord. All right. Anyway, let's kick this one off, all right? We will be right back. Thank you guys and gals for chilling out, and I will see you on the other side.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Right, how you feeling? It's 7:17 p.m. on the East Coast. No reason to cut the grab bag off so soon when we don't have a guest coming in. I like these nights. As much as I love speaking with guests and learning about them, I also love hanging out with you guys and bringing you in for the ride. So, a couple of things I want to put out to drive you guys to the forum. Oh, number one, from the Mall Memories show, we were talking about memories from the mall, the shopping mall. We had that one caller, Ed, who had called in, and I said, hey, Ed, I would love to know more about your story. It was really fascinating. And people were like, yes, more, Ed. Ed, here's another call for you. Get in touch with me. I'm still waiting for you, Ed. I know that you said you didn't have email, but ask somebody you know with an email address to email me at frank@quitefrankly.tv. Come on, Ed. I know you're listening. You have the technology to listen to this show live, so you can definitely find a way to email me. Come on, Ed, I believe in you. You've been through so much. You can handle an email. All right, so that's the first one. Now I direct you to quitefrankly.tv, to the forum, and pinned to the top of the forum, there's a number of things that we're going to be working off of pretty soon, but there are three in particular I want to draw your attention to. And the first one is this. What was the best thing you ever inherited? We're going to do this maybe sometime next week. It's based on a really interesting story that I had set aside about a housekeeper or something that inherited millions, almost like a Mr. Deeds kind of a thing. But this is something, and it doesn't have to be genetic. It doesn't have to be like, I inherited my father's blue eyes, but you could go there if you want to. I'm talking about more so somebody passed on, somebody died, and left something incredible to you. I mean, even if it's nothing of intrinsic value, intrinsic value is what I'm looking for. What's the best thing you ever inherited? So it doesn't have to have some kind of a dollar amount to it. It's not like striking gold at Antiques Roadshow or anything. You can, of course, but something that would just really hit home. It was the best gift you ever got. So I'm looking for everything. Objective treasure, subjective treasure, something genetic you like about yourself, whatever. That's number one. What is the best thing you ever inherited? You got to get in on that one, ladies and gentlemen, because whereas I love taking calls and the calls will flow, I love being able to read off at least a dozen of these entries. It makes the show so much more smoother. The second one that is pinned to the top of that forum is this. We're bringing it back, 6 Degrees of Separation, the 2024 edition. I don't think that we've done this since 2022. So we have a lot more people in the audience now than we did the last time we did this. Here's the question. Do you have anyone in your past, family history, near or far, that made history or at least contributed to it in a publicly notable way? Are you related to a president, a famous scientist, a bank robber, pirates, actors, authors, murderers, inventors, etc.? It's been a couple of years since we've done this bit, so let's see how connected the Quite Frankly audience is. It's to 6 Degrees of Separation. Let's know what you guys got going on over there. So that is up again. People loved that show. We've done 2 of those shows, and it's been a couple of years since we did the last one. So let's get around to it. 6 Degrees of Separation. And then the other one, this one is today. And there's already 2 pages worth of entries because I found a really great conversation of people sharing stories that pertain to this. And I took their names and I took their entries and I pasted it into the thread to really get it going. But I know that this one may need a couple of nights. I know it will, and I think it'll be a wonderful... The only question I have is, do I save this for like a Mother's Day, Father's Day kind of a thing? And you'll see why. Here you go. The show thread is called Insane Side Quests. Now, I had seen a meme. There was a meme that I had seen that was on Instagram somewhere, and it read this way. It said, when your dad picks you up from school instead of your mom, and you knew you were about to go on an insane side quest. Now, I want you guys and gals out there to tell me a time that your father, an uncle, or any wild card figure in your life, if that figure was your mom, then fine. That's fine. But especially fathers, uncles, or any kind of male figure, wild card figure in your life shows up at school or anywhere else unexpected and took you on a random quest which became a core memory of yours, you know, where all of a sudden, oh, shit, dad's here instead of mom, and he just takes you to an unexpected place, or you do something weird, or you do something just unforgettable, just because they're just shoot from the hip type of people. I want to know about that. And I've already got a couple of pages worth of stuff in here. So I want you guys to jump in there and let me know. Go there, read the thread, what's been building so far. You get some inspiration, you put it in, and we're going to have a nice ride into spring. Okay. That's out of the way. So I asked the question on Monday night, do you feel burnt out? Is there anything burning you out? I brought this up Monday. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? If so, where do you feel the burnout? Is it professional? Is it social? Is it social media? On Valentine's Day, Lauren and I were talking about my Lenten promise of being pleasant on social media. Well, I mean, I have been very good with that. I have stayed away from commenting nastily and whatever. I'm still going to lay down commentary on things that, are bothering me. And this is a big part of it, the burnout. And I feel it, especially this time of year, where on March 1st, I'm really going to start putting together my taxes. I got to put together what's coming in, what's going out, this and that, what's being written off, and then, of course, write the big check. Write the damn check. The check that keeps me out of jail and nothing else. Not my patriotic duty. It's I don't know. It's alimony? What the hell is it? I was never married. Never married to the system. But I'm paying them for some reason. It's sick. It's sick stuff, and it wears on me. And this time of year, it really, really wears a lot more. And I'm reading a lot, and I'm having a lot of time with people in my life who are feeling it too, who just don't know what to do anymore, where the hell to go. And I want to read this to you to inspire some conversation with the audience. Here it is. It's from the Washington Examiner from a few days ago. It's called Middle America is Dying Hard. Here are some of my highlights. Most people in this town will tell you they'd rather have taken a physical punch to the gut than get the news that they received yesterday when Cleveland Cliffs Steel announced it was idling its tin plate production plant, a move that had directly cost 900 people their jobs. 30 years ago, more than 10,000 people worked here at Weirton Steel. Now, the last 900 workers left that have just lost their jobs. 10,000 to 900, now 900 gone. When I was growing up in the 1980s, the mill was still going at full tilt, with Weirton Steel employing 10,000 people, including my grandfathers, said Ryan Weld of Wellsburg, 43 years old, who grew up in downtown Weirton. The Republican state senator said things started to slow down here in the mid to late 90s after the North American Free Trade Agreement was enacted, NAFTA. Here's a quote, that dramatically changed the landscape of downtown when it went from a bustling, the last age group that remembers the shops and stores, restaurants of downtown, it went from a bustling place to just nothing. He believed NAFTA, signed by President Bill Clinton in 93, essentially made it hard for companies like Weirton Steel, which had to follow strict and expensive Environmental Protection Agency guidelines, complete with places like Mexico, or to compete with places like Mexico. The towns all up and down the Steel Valley died hard. Here's another quote for you. The legacy of the federal government and its refusal to properly enforce trade laws is nothing but empty mills and unemployed workers. That was true in the 80s and 90s, and that is true today. 40 years ago, the Democrat Party started to slowly shed its working class base, but not quickly. Democrat officials would still show up for decades at union rallies, putting their arms around workers' shoulders and telling them that they have their back, while at the same time enacting regulations and trade agreements that stripped them of their livelihoods and dignity and made ghettos of their once beloved communities. By 2012, Obama re-election, they traded their New Deal Democrat legacy voters for ascendant groups, minorities, young people, college-educated elites, and single women, all done without so much as a Dear John letter. The Republicans inherited these people, but most of their strategists running messaging and campaigns had no idea what to do with them, at least on the national level. And this is me talking now, which is really confounding. It's really confounding. You have a lot of these people who, like, even when I would talk to Skip about all this stuff, like years ago, even before I really cared too much and I wasn't really emotionally invested, I remember asking him, how do you vote? You do Democrat? Do you do Republican? He goes, well, I'm Democrat. Democrats for the working man. And I know that a lot of people believe that, and maybe at one point it was. And I know those that term blue dog Democrats or whatever that are still pretty blue collar, and they think that it's still the I don't know what the hell it is, but it's not there anymore. That right there, again, we've seen that. Have they not passed up on middle America, small town America, the suburbs, to be able to cast the die with complete crazy social justice nonsense that has transcended even race and gender, or I should say race and sex, that has gone directly beyond race, beyond class and sex, and gone into the depths of hell with the gender shit and so much. It's insane. Makes you wonder what the hell they're doing it for. You're taking a viable group of people and you're trading it in for something that is small and insane. But that's just the plan. I don't know. And what the hell have Republicans done? Well, they're pieces of shit too. And the real thing is that there's very few Republicans that actually, I'm sure some of them out there are trying to get some PAC money and actually believe in conservative values or independence and things like that. But it's very hard for these parties to differentiate themselves from each other. It's very hard. They all want the same kind of control. They like centralizing things. They like regulation. They like central banking. They like things like free trade and mercantilism and all that stuff. That's really what it is. Man, oh man. Anyway, here it is. And when I say free trade, I mean like the NAFTA stuff where it's only one way. You know, it's only one way. Let's see. Let's keep going. In short, we are heading once again into an election where very few people in Washington truly understand how remarkably devastating this mill closure is. Instead, it is a wire story at best, soon forgotten if measured at all. They truly do not understand how much the loss of dignity of work has changed American politics. Nothing says that more than how shoplifting has been so not only enabled, but protected. To want to talk about dignity of work. There is no dignity. That this tone deafness is still happening 14 years after Barack Obama was given notice in the 2010 midterm elections and 8 years after Donald Trump won the presidency is pretty staggering. Now we're going toward the end over here. Few things bond people and citizens together like trying to make a living in the real world. The dignity of work and raising a family, he explained. Oh, we're talking about Jeff Bauer, a political science professor at Keystone College, said Washington elites on both sides of the aisle, media elites and now online conspiracy elites, just don't get middle America even after this recent economically and politically difficult decade. He explained, the few things bond people together like dignity of work and raising a family, adding that these bonds that cut across all divides, geographic, racial and ethnic divides, religious, gender, ideological, party divides, and even at times socioeconomic. If there is one thing we have learned over the past decade, it is that this bond over the difficulties of making an honest living can and does create unlikely coalitions of voters, he said. Even desperate voters from likes of Bernie Sanders supporters to Trump supporters can agree on this. And lastly, we say Bauer said dignity of work is at the very core of the American experience that the elites of this country still just don't understand, while average Americans just keep getting financially squeezed more and more. I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. And I know many of you are too. And I really want to get this. I really want to get your thoughts on this. I really want to get it all on the books. Now, earlier on today, I already knew I was going to talk about tonight, but then it just got me thinking. Especially since I was talking with Lauren about a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, who was in some financial difficulty and was wondering, was really looking forward to a so-called refund this year. A so-called refund from the IRS. Imagine that, refund. For what? What services were rendered? What services were rendered? What is it? And instead, she's learning that she's actually going to have to owe, which is which is devastating, especially for people who are already don't really have much. And, I think about how the system emboldens and protects criminals, even down to the shoplifters. It prioritizes the non-citizen. You see what the hell's going on in places like New York and Texas and Chicago, wherever the hell all of these foreigners are being imported and just moved around and then protected from any kind of criticism when they act exactly the way that you think they would after breaking into a place they have no allegiance to and asking to be taken care of like a fucking child. And then on top of it, we've got this system. I wouldn't call it a government. I'd call it a company that wages domestic war through the courts, through so-called law enforcement, and it gaslights you about all of it in the media. Gaslights you about all of it. Lies to you. Blames you in respect for not seeing it in a more diplomatic way, what's going on, what's being done to you, and why you got to pay for it. Because that's the other thing that happens. Every April, they send you the bill for all the shit that they've been doing to you. Every April. I bust my ass just like so many of you out there. We do different types of work, but busting your ass is busting your ass. That's just what it is. You're trying to provide for a family. At the very least, you're trying to build something for yourself. The fruits of your labor is very, very intimate and very important. And to have these worthless criminals tell you that you owe them for what? For what? For what? I don't owe shit. I get more value from my local pizzeria. I get more value from my favorite pizzerias around here than I do Washington, D.C. I hate it. I hate it, and I hate everyone involved in it. I said that as much today on Twitter as well. And I'll tell you something else. That doesn't mean I'm going to skirt my responsibility. And my responsibility is to my family. So that means I'm going to pay every penny that I owe because I am determined to stay out of jail and be with my family. That is slavery. That is extortion. That is every gangster trope of people going to the local flower shop and asking for protection money. There's really no value to any of this stuff, but we're getting squeezed. That's it. Haven't even talked about the fake wars and all that shit and everything else. And then there's this on top of it. So this is what I'm talking about with burnout and everything else. There's also the socio stuff, the socioeconomic, socio-political stuff. But then there's this. This is from Newsweek a couple of maybe about 2 weeks ago. This is last week in January. Childcare now costs more than college as parents fork over $36,000 a year in some instances. It's official, childcare costs are now more than you'd pay for college. Around 47% of parents spent up to $18,000 a year on their childcare expenses, according to the new cost of care report from care.com, while 20% of parents indicate that they spend more than $36,000 in a year. Compare this to the yearly tuition and room and board at a public state university, and parents might be shocked. For the 2023-24 school year, the average cost of attendance for a public four-year college in a state college, including tuition, fees, room and board, was $24,030 a year, according to the U.S. Department of Education. Now think about that. That's just something else on it entirely. Now here's the rub. Why do I bring that up? Because you can tack this onto everything that we have read in the previous article, number one, but we also talk a lot about male versus female in the workforce. On this show, at least we do. We've talked about that, the emergence of the trad wife, so-called, about the stay-at-home mom, being able to take control of education again by being there to educate your child, to homeschool, to find a way to get our hands back on the wheels of things. Now, I've personally taken quite a few calls from older women over the years in the audience who said that they regretted working as much as they did. They regretted not being there at home to raise their kids. And there seems to be just as many people now, if not a growing number of people, who would like to work less. They have a chance right now to do that if only desire would be able to match up with the feasibility of it economically. They would like to do that stuff. They would like to invest more in their family, and they have no choice but to work to be able to stay afloat and generally feel hopeless because of the squeeze, the burnout, the hamster wheel. You know? That's just it. And to go through an entire year of struggling just to have Uncle Sam, abusive Uncle Sam, diddling Uncle Sam, hold out his bony hand and ask for more. You know how many of those women? I'm using you ladies out there as an example, or how many of them who wish they could have done something differently, with their work and home life 25 years ago. Those women, if they regret what they could have done, the real thing here to think about is 25 years ago, they could have if they had only the desire, at least a lot more so than today. These days, because of how things are right now, desire may not be enough. So, by the time some of these child care bills are paid, that cuts into your groceries. You're obviously not taking very many vacations, which are really integral to building wonderful core family memories, which is really all that life is. You got to have those moments, man. It can't just be one big struggle and then a couple hours on a Saturday night. It can't. It can't all Sunday thinking about how the work week starts again the next day. It can't be about that. So then you have this. That's why I wanted to throw that out. You have the child care debate. It's so expensive, but are kids even well taken care of? When you fork over the $36,000, it's stressful to think about. So, there's a lot here. I'm opening up the lines in just a second. I'm going to go on a break and bring you all in for it. Are you burnt out? What changes have you seen? Have you seen in yourself? What changes have you seen in the people around you, as far as the way that your towns and cities have completely transformed and been, turned into something that's unrecognizable, for something as very basic as the financial aspect. Remember, this rears its head on the show a lot, and especially when we discuss things like ghost towns. It wasn't too long ago that we did that one headline on this show, how some universities have studied the trajectory of what many American cities and towns are on right now, and they said that half of nearly 25,000 cities in the United States could become ghost towns by the year 2100. Where are people going? What's happening? What is it? So it's all part of this stuff. Where are people being funneled away from? What opportunities are being shuttered? I want to hear about how things have changed where you are. Give me a call. Let's do that right now. 914-200-0269. Give me a call about the Great American Burnout. Please do so, because I know there's many of you out there. And let's see here. 914-200-0269. Let's keep those calls flowing, and we will be back in just a second. BRB.
What is up, guys? Mike Collins here from Wandering Wolf Productions at Easter Island, and you are watching Quite Frankly.
Yeah, sure. Let's just get across. Okay.
Hey.
Hey. How's it going, man?
Thanks for fucking up the city.
Have a nice day, buddy.
Yeah, asshole.
Go to quitefrankly.tv and enter the forum. Engage with official show topic threads or start your own thread. Get signed up. It's that easy. And it's not Reddit, so don't sweat it. For the forum and so much more, it's quitefrankly.tv. Yeehaw.
Scientists were able to mimic Nessie Amun's voice by recreating his mouth and vocal cords with a 3D printer. It allowed them to produce a single sound.
All right, 914-200-0269. Let's talk about the Great American Burnout. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go right ahead.
Hey, Frank, this is Melissa from Wyoming. How are you?
I'm doing well, Melissa. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, we spoke about my husband's stitches a while back. So
I think I remember. Go ahead, please.
Anyway, we retired, and lo and behold, it was COVID. We had planned to take a trip to New Zealand and backpack while we were still young enough to enjoy it. Well, that got shot down real quickly because we refused to be vaxxed. Anyway, so guess what? So then my son said, let's move to Wyoming from Northern California. I said, sounds great. Let's go. So we moved to a small town here of 2,000 in the middle of nowhere and couldn't be happier. So that's how it changed us.
Oh, well, that's great. That's a positive turn.
It's a positive, and I've become much more politically active. I make phone calls a couple hours every day now.
So then, as far as that idea, like when your son was growing up, were you and your husband both working?
He worked full time at a great Teamster job, and I was able to work around my boys' schedules with a part-time job at a college and cleaning houses and whatever I could find. And then I was available to drive everybody around and help score baseball and drive other kids around and all that.
Okay,
you know?
So then there's now, let me just ask you, and speaking hypothetically, because obviously things have changed over the years, but do you think that you would have been able to, if you roll back the clock now and all you, your husband, your son, your whole family is back to the way things were, but now it's just 2024. Would you have been able to keep that part-time work schedule, or would you have needed to be able to go and work full-time as well to make ends meet, do you think?
Actually, since both my husband and I were raised by children of the Depression and World War II,
Mm-hmm.
we learned to be very thrifty. We learned to buy used cars. If it were 2024 back then, probably get down to one car, buy all your clothes at the thrift store, cook everything at home, and grow your own food, whatever you need to do. Because I think it's very important to be home with your children.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's why why I wanted to bring that up in particular when I saw the child care aspect to what is going on with the big squeeze of people across the country, is that if we're ever going to make strides of, toward the homeschooling and keeping families together,
we did that too,
right? Yeah, and what I'm saying is that the era in which you did it was definitely a lot easier for people to make that choice if they had the desire to do it. But back then, I would have to, and thank you for the call, Melissa. I have a couple more calls coming in here. I would say that there's a lot more trust, as we know right now, from the way that there's about 5 million children that are being homeschooled. And you go back even just 10 years and you can cut that down by at least, I don't know how many million. This is a recent phenomenon of people who are taking education and home life very seriously. At the same time, it's becoming increasingly hard. It's becoming harder and harder for people to make it happen. So, being thrifty is definitely going to have to be a part of it all. But as far as burnout goes and how everybody's feeling, and I don't care where you feel the burn coming from. If it's media, if it's social media, call in and let me know what the hell's on your mind. All right, Jennifer, what's going on?
Hey,
Hey,
Frank, it's Dog Show Jennifer.
hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. So what do you want to add to this?
Well, I know you're talking about how things have changed, and I'm an accountant. I know you remember from my letters, and over the last especially 2 years, and I'm going through tax season right now, my clients are doing so bad. Everyone, their income, their revenue, everything. and their expenses are way up. And then I get people calling to want to be a new client, or just calling in random, like searching on Yelp or whatever. And they will boldly ask me if I have a client already in that industry, or just in general, how my other clients are doing. And I have to tell them the truth that everyone is doing bad. You know, everyone's income is down at least a third, their revenue, and expenses are up at least a third. I mean, it's really bad. And I don't have one single client that has given anybody a raise. And if you're on a contract labor, 1099 contractor, they are not using people as much because of the expense. And I know a lot of the general contractors that do even residential homes or commercial building are really hurting. And even online sales, of course, you know, my clients have specific things they sell online, but it's just amazing how the difference between the last 2 years and, say, the year before COVID. And even the year of COVID, it wasn't that bad. Not like it is now.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't.
They had a couple months that were bad, but not the whole year, right?
Right. You wouldn't feel that in 2020. This was always going to be something that you would feel in 22, 23, and beyond, because it wasn't even just there was a major pause moment economically for a lot of people where they're told to stay home. They had to convert their job to a remote job. Some people just had to give up working altogether. There was just so much flux going on there. And then about a year later, we're talking about the coercion because of all the medical mandates and things like that. So there was even more in that respect. But what we are seeing right now, I believe, has to be a major contributor, is that there's been a rewiring of American work ethic and just behavior. They've been trying to modify our behavior the whole way through this, and I just think that there's a lot of people who have. I don't know. There's so many things that we probably can't even account for.
And you know, during COVID, every single solitary business that I have had to shut down. And the government, of course, was giving the money away. If you had W-2 employees, then you could apply for the PPP loan, which got everybody through, unless you had 1099 people. And then you got nothing. And those, I had 4 or 5 clients that had 1099 people that had to go out of business because they were losing so much money and they couldn't rehire people, right? And they couldn't keep their machines, loans up, and it was awful. But then it seemed to recover a little bit, but this past 2 years, it's just awful.
Well, I thank you for the call, Jennifer, and there's a few things, and thanks again. There's a few things I wanted to get out ahead of as well. The other thing there that she had brought up about hiring, there's still help wanted signs everywhere around me. Even smaller jobs that would never have any openings. I told you, my friends at the pizzeria, they have had an incredibly hard time keeping pizza makers, people just to toss dough, on staff. Incredibly hard, because people are still having their lives subsidized through means-tested programs and this and that. And it is a rewiring of people's approach to what's going on in the job market, what they're willing to accept, which is ridiculous. The real thing is that there's no life or death situations in this country still. At this point, there's no life or death situation. What do you normally notice when you see any of those shoplifting videos, people going into the Gucci stores, grabbing things, aside from the demographics? It's the fact that they have the fattest fucking asses you can even imagine. I don't know how these clowns even stuff themselves back into the cars with all of the stuff that they just stolen from the Gucci store or wherever the hell they are. The fattest asses you can imagine. instead of working. I mean, that's something right there. Just look at the asses of the people that are shoplifting. All right, let's keep taking some calls. 914-200-0269. Let's see. We just had a couple of blip up. They had a couple of blip away. All right, let's take a call from Paul. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
The Great American Burnout is that kid in Florida that did the burnout on the LGBTQ crosswalk.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Didn't he get in trouble?
So I got the ChristianPost.com pulled up here. He's facing a felony. And Tim Pool donated $10,000 to him the other day. He's 19 years old. He's raised $28,000 of his $100,000 goal as of Wednesday.
Nice. And you know what? So then I guess that's your point. This is part of your Great American Burnout. Not only did he do a burnout on this graffiti, this street graffiti that is somehow a civil rights gesture, but this is part of it. The social aspect of what we're living through is also what makes so much of dealing with this intolerable. The fact that we have that shit jammed down our throat constantly, the fact that people are doing, they're really trying to stabilize their lives economically, and still they have to go and see what is being afforded to non-citizens in all over the country by the hundreds of thousands, the scam that continues on. This is part of the burnout, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Hey, yeah, so the Fed requires illegals and immigrants. When they print all that money, they want new birth certificates coming in. That's the collateral.
Well,
since you brought that up,
yeah, it's the collateral. I'd say that it would just and it also goes into, and thanks again for the call, Paul. It also goes into the insidiousness of the entire thing, because you could have just as easily incentivized people to have children. But they don't want Americans to have children anymore. They want to replace Americans with people that have absolutely no interest in understanding what America even was. Most Americans don't even know what America was or what it was intended to be. So this is about installing a permanent post-American underclass of dependents who will only do whatever the people who are feeding them tell them to do. And by and large, a lot of the citizen class are like that too. At this point, there's a lot of political autonomy that's gone. Let's take a call from our friend Wendy. What's going on, Wendy Mahoney?
Hey, Frank, how are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to hear from you. Go right ahead.
Well, I got to tell you, I hit a wall about a couple weeks ago, and I've been taking a little bit of time off. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. To write about the things that I write about, and I wrote an article on the border and last week, and it crushed me. But I think what you're saying about people and that it's rewiring people, I definitely think it has. I mean, I've got one of my sons works remote. He's so fed up with the United States, and he's a pretty conservative guy. He's so fed up with the dating market and the United States and the politics and the corruption and the border that he's, going down to Colombia and Costa Rica and spending like 3 and 4 weeks at a time out of the country. I mean, when you start seeing 38-year-old guys doing that kind of thing, you begin to wonder, it's people are, I think, really dispirited and depressed. It's, we're not quite to the point where we're gaining momentum for the election. People are afraid of what's going to happen in 2024. And, I see help signs, help wanted signs all over too. I think people just, they're not motivated. They were slammed during COVID. And then all this stuff that seems so purposeful everywhere you turn with our government. It's tough. It's very tough. I've taken a couple of days off actually, and just pretty much done nothing for a few days here.
Well, you and I, we've had a lot of conversations and exchanges like that over the years too. This requires just being socially conscious at this point. It's one thing to be a journalist like you are. It's one thing to be a talk show host like I am. If you're going to talk about relevant things, then you have to be able to dip into the toxic end of the pool. But now it's not even something that you could escape for too long. If you're going to be socially conscious at all, this stuff is just waiting for you. You're seeing a change in everything from just your local, just the way that your town is made up, to the people around you. What's happening with your relationships? It's all contributing to almost like this nightmarish trying to escape from a nightmare, where you're just really just trying to blink your eyes inside of the dream, and hopefully you'll wake up in a better time.
You could not have nailed it better than you just did. And I think the only way I keep telling people, even myself, writing and even what you do. I mean, you've got Lauren, you've got a lot of friends, you have a good network. That's great. At my age, I mean, we moved here when I was older, so I don't really have a network of friends here, and it makes a huge difference. And, it's the only way that we're going to survive this is by building real life relationships. But even that is so hard. People, they're either really well defended, or they're working from home, or they're not as social as they used to be. I've noticed a real change in people's behavior. And, I think social media is just absolutely just destroying, between that and all the just AI and you're right. I mean, it's one thing to write about this stuff or talk about it on air, but you can't escape it. And it's just, I took a walk last weekend, and I just needed to get outside, and I saw this guy with a wheelbarrow, and he was, doing some gardening, for landscaping stuff. And he was taking, handfuls of dirt, mulch onto the garden. And I just thought to myself, you lucky son of a bitch. You're just, you're out here in the fresh air. You're doing manual labor. You don't have your phone. You're not listening to anything. You're just out there working hard, sweating and physical work. It's so good for the soul. I mean, I don't know any other way out at this point. It's really, really tough.
Yeah.
Really, really tough right now.
I thank you for the call, Wendy, and your writing is always very illuminating, and I think that you always get to the core of the issue, and I'm happy that you call in when you do. I wish it was more often, but I'll take what I can get. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Bye.
All right, there you go. Wendy writes for Uncover DC, and I don't know where else. She does a lot of work, though. Got to look out for her. And I also just want to say one thing. I bring this up because I know it's what we are dealing with across the board. And, hey, your personal mindset when you go out and attack the day is all that matters. It does not negate what is happening around us, what's being done to us, in what direction we're being pushed. But of course, mindset is how we deal with the shit. So there's no black pill here. There's a very sober diagnosis of events, of what's going on around us, and then there is just how we deal. Those are two different things, and they got to be handled nice and addressed nicely, because there's a war out there. And when she was talking about being almost like jealous of people who are out there and in the yard and doing the thing, or just wiping the sweat from their brow, I understand that too, and that's why I'm trying to simplify the show even more, so there can be some more of that, especially when spring and summer rolls around. And that's another reason why this show's we've got to do some stuff with this, where we're talking about things that kind of let a little bit of that energy dissipate, release it a little bit more, and get down to simpler things to talk about, to get into the garden of the mind. That's what we need to do. Got to get in the sunshine, in the garden of the mind, and just do a little planting, do a little hoeing, a little hoe action, and away we go. That's that. All right, listen, it's 8:04. We're switching over to quitefrankly.tv, to pilled.net. I heard that pilled.net has a very snazzy new look. But the link for our direct broadcast is in the description below. I have callers from Billy. I have callers from 618. I have callers from 860. I think that is John from Connecticut. I don't know. Please call in. We have a whole other hour to go, and I want to keep talking to you about this. We're switching on over. See you at quitefrankly.tv, pilled.net, and we'll be there in a flash. Be right back.
The rest of the show is available exclusively at pilled.net. Follow the link in the description of the episode, get signed up, it's that easy. Or head on over to quitefrankly.tv, just press play. No paywalls, no censorship, no strings attached. So head on over, quitefrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole, and pilled.net.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to Intermission.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, Intermission. Yeah, Intermission.
Now entering, quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite